Welcome everybody to Book Versus, the show where we ask that age-old question, is the book really always better than the movie? So in today's episode, we're looking at the 1844 classic, The Three Musketeers by Alexander Dumas. I mean, what more could be said about it? This thing has been redone, reimagined repeatedly, throughout the centuries at this point. It's a mainstay in action, romance, thrilling adventure, and what have you. But what about the original source material? Does it still hold up today, with modern-day imaginations, rewritings, and what have you? Well, let's find out. So after scouring the internet, trying to figure out, what was the best, adaptation of the Three Musketeers, according to said internet, the winner is the 1973 movie edition, starring one such as Christopher Lee and Faye Dunaway. So let's take a look. Is the book actually better than the movie? Let's find out. So in regards to content, the book always has more content than the movie. This is not a slight against films or whatnot. This is just simply how the mediums work, right? So is the content that was removed from the book or content added to the movie make one or the other better than the other? All right, so let's take a look. So one thing I will say is as I'm sitting here watching the movie, I was thinking to myself, man, there's only 30 minutes left of the film, and they're not even halfway through the book yet. How are they possibly going to be able to wrap everything up in time? Ow. I guess I'll have to watch that too then. Oh. I guess I'll just review the first half then. So first and foremost, the most glaring difference between, the book and the film is, well, ironically, the Musketeers themselves, Athos, Porthos, Aramis, right? In the book, they each have their own fleshed out stories, aspirations, side gigs, what they're trying to do and everything like that. It is there in the movie, they do make mention of it.
My dear Aramis needs 10 to impress his latest mistress. My good Porthos needs 10 to enable himself to dress decently. And you need 10 for lodgings and a servant, I would suggest. And I...
And you?
I need a drink.
But they're shadows themselves. I feel that if I had not actually read the book to begin with, I would not have picked up on it. It's only because I read this that I realized, when they said that or mentioned that, it's because we're referring to this kind of thing, right? Now, in defense of it, I do understand why they wanted to concentrate on D'Artagnan. He is basically the main character of the book, as well as the movie, of course, right? And so all the major stories center around him as this character, okay? But you have to remember, the movie and the book are called The Three Musketeers, not D'Artagnan, okay? So you have to have all of them together, the whole all for one for all thing. It's not just D'Artagnan all the time. Something else, too, is each of the Musketeers also had their own little squire helper buddies all the time. They wrote all of them out except for Planchet. D'Artagnan's, surprise, surprise, his little buddy. Also, something I thought was really odd was Madame de Winters. She's what I would consider to be the major antagonist of the book. And she's barely even in the movie. She's kind of here and there, just enough to be I'm evil. And then she kind of leaves and then that's it. Mind you, it does kind of, build up in the epilogue of the movie that she is going to be a major villain in the following sequel to it. Okay, I get that. That's fine. And even in regards to the book, she is there through the first half, but it isn't until the second half where she really picks up, who she is and what have you. So I will forgive it for the most part. And the story that the movie does tell, about the jewels, that the king gives to the queen, it is told very well and competently. I will go as far as to say that if you have somebody who's only ever watched the movie and then they talk to somebody who's read the book and they want to talk about that aspect of the story specifically, they can perfectly fine have a conversation about it. They hit all the major plot points and everything like that in the movie when compared to the book. That's fine. That's okay. I'll give it that. Something else, too, is I will give the movie. It is entertaining. I like it how it does a good job showing, the opulence, the royalty and what have you, just how much money they have. And while it does kind of flounder a bit on, the Three Musketeers, the way how it shows the Musketeers in general, the actual army regiment or whatever you want to call it, they did a good job on that too, just to kind of show you, how they act and feel and what have you. At the end of the day, I think it just comes down to, what do you care? The all you care about is the action and the adventure aspect of it. The movie should be fine for the most part. But if you want to go beyond that, you want to know why it is, Athos always seems to be depressed, why it is Porthos is, always worried about the way he looks, his clothing, everything like that, then you will have to, of course, read the book. So while this, of course, won't surprise anybody here, D'Artagnan is given all the screen time the guy needs, right? And to be fair, in defense of the movie, once again, you can only do so much in a 90-minute film, right? And there are a lot of characters and what have you in the book and everything, they had to concentrate on just one or two, and understandably they chose D'Artagnan. Even though at times I do feel like they were almost speed running his story a little bit. But I am still a little bit grumbly since, again, it is called The Three Musketeers, not just D'Artagnan. Another thing, though, I am going to bring up, though, are the action scenes, like the actual fighting scenes. In the movies, they're a lot more like swashbuckling, fun for the whole family kind of fighting, right? In the book, they're noticeably different compared to that. They were a lot more thinking, describing, head mental mind games and all the rest of it. There are a lot more things were going on. Not to say that there wasn't stuff going on in the movie. There was, but you know what? The best thing I'm going to do for you, actually, I'm going to read part of the book to you right now, right? While the corresponding fight scene is playing here. And the non-combatants rushed upon each other with a fury which did not, however, exclude a kind of method. Athos took Cusack, one of the cardinal's favorites. Porthos selected Biscarat, and Aramis found himself opposed to two adversaries. As for D'Artagnan, he sprang towards Jussac himself. The heart of the young Gaston throbbed violently, not with fear, but with eagerness. He fought with the fury of an enraged tiger, turning round his adversary, and every moment changing his guard and position. Jussac, as we have said before, was the most skillful and experienced swordsman. Nevertheless, he found the utmost difficulty in defending himself against his adversary, who, active and nimble, perpetually deviated from all the received rules of fencing, attacking on all sides at once, and yet, at the same time, guarding himself like one who had the greatest respect in the world for his own person. At length, the struggle was brought to a conclusion by Jussac's rashness. Furious at being thus held at bay by one whom he regarded as a mere boy, he became less cautious and committed various indiscretions, whilst D'Artagnan, who, although deficient in practice, had a profound knowledge of the theory of the art, redoubled his agility. Jussac, eager to dispatch him, made a tremendous lunge, at the same time breaking ground. But D'Artagnan parried the thrust, and whilst Jussac recovered himself, he glided like a serpent under his weapon and passed his sword through his body. Jussac fell heavily to the ground. D'Artagnan now cast a rapid and anxious glance over the field of battle. Aramis had already killed one of his adversaries, but the other pressed him sharply. He was, however, in very good trim, and could well defend himself. Biscarat and Porthos had both received wounds, Porthos in his arm, and his adversary in his thigh. But, as neither of the wounds were severe, they only fought the more fiercely. Athos, wounded afresh by Cusack, looked more and more pale, but did not yield an inch. He had merely changed hands and fought with his left. According to the laws of dueling at that period, D'Artagnan was at liberty to assist one of his companions, but whilst he sought to ascertain which of them most required his aid, he caught a glance from Athos, which served instead of speech. Athos would have died sooner than call for assistance, but his look plainly denoted how much he required support. D'Artagnan at once comprehended his meaning, and with a single bound he fell on Cusac's flank, exclaiming, "Turn, Sir Guardsman, or I will kill you." Cusack did turn, just as Athos, whom his extreme courage had alone sustained, sunk upon one knee. "Hello, young man," exclaimed Athos. "Do not kill him, I beseech you. I have an old affair to settle with him when I am cured. Disarm him only, deprive him of his sword. That's it. Good, very good." This exclamation escaped Athos on perceiving the sword of Cusack flying from his hand at a distance of 20 paces. D'Artagnan and Cusack both rushed forward to secure the weapon, but D'Artagnan being the most active. So yeah, it's pretty different, huh? And that one actually wasn't even all that bad in comparison. I found that in the movie, a lot of time, the Musketeers like Athos, Porthos, and Aramis, they spend most of their time just sort of like jumping around, going hee hee ha ha ho ho and whatnot there, right? Oh, let's have fun killing guys, people. Meanwhile, in the book, Porthos, for the most part, was the only one that was generally excited to kind of start fighting, right? Now, as you saw, the fights are good in the movie. The choreography is good. They're high energy, they're entertaining and whatnot. It's just that, that coupled with, the non-existent character developments, it does leave, once again, some stuff to be desired. Mind you, it's not all the doom and gloom, though, alright? The king and the queen and, most of the royalties are very similar to how they were done in the book. And Count Richelieu and Rochefort were, spot on to how they were. Madame de Winters, while she's barely in it, was done well enough, as well as actually most of the side characters, with one exception, which was just absolutely terrible in it, right? So you remember back when I went and mentioned that, all the Musketeers originally had, their own squires, but the only one that actually made it into the film was Planchet, D'Artagnan's? Well, he is in it, and he's played by some actor called Roy Kinnear. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the fellow.
You'll be on your ears, every one of you! And listen to this! The first girl that finds a golden ticket gets a £1 bonus in her paper!
And they just... what did they do? So referring to the book again, alright, Planchet, he's loyal, he's competent, he's always off doing things to help out the gang and everything like that. And while he's not a major character per se, he is pivotal to the plot, right? In the movie, Planchet his only point of existence is so that you can point and laugh at him. That's it. That's all he does. He's such a shallow character. It's like, oh, look, he's fat and he's clumsy. That makes him funny, right? Isn't that the way how this works, right?
Picture of the year.
It's like a lot of the scenes he's in get ruined almost to me because I know he's going to do something stupid, just like get a cheap laugh out of it. Now, that's not to say there isn't humor in the book. There's plenty of humor. Some of the humor in the book I go as far as to say is even farce, like just like how ridiculous it is, right? But it's not like this. This is like poorly written, like slapstick malarkey, like, just ruined it. Now, I'm not saying the acting was bad. The actor did perfectly fine with what he had to work with. So this one I point at, I don't know if it was the writers or, the producers or whatever like that, but somebody dropped the ball, all right? They took a character which was fairly serious and just did whatever that is to him. At the end of the day, the book was entertaining and the film was entertaining, right? I enjoyed reading and watching both of them, although they were noticeably different from one another. And, you did have to make concessions. Once again, this is not a short book, right? If they actually did try to make this entire, book in one film, it would be like a 3-4 hour long film, right? So I do understand them wanting to split it up, 1.5 and half kind of thing. But one last little job I am going to have about the film, though, was, okay, so they knew right off the hop that there's going to be a sequel, right? They knew that, considering there was a trailer for, the second movie at the end of the first movie. And the way how they went and ended it, you could tell that they were building up for the sequel, right? But that's a problem. The way how they ended it, they gave it a very definitive, the end. Of course, that wasn't like that in the book, because the book, you just sort of kept going, right? But having that definitive the end where you can watch the second one if you want to, but you don't have to if you don't want to, that kind of was weird to me because there have been plenty of other movies, all right, that have, sequels or trilogies, what have you, where one film just goes right into the second one, not a problem like that, right? I'm not even talking about, modern ones. No, even back in the day, okay? So them kind of doing it like this was a little bit jarring in my opinion. Overall feel between the two of them. So the movie was obviously, an action comedy with, some romance sprinkled in, which is perfectly fine like that. The book, it does have comedy. Once again, it does. It's kind of like when you have just the Musketeers themselves with D'Artagnan. It's just kind of chilling out, sitting around talking. It's oftentimes very comedic, but it does definitely have some very serious and dark points in the matter like that, right? But they had to cut a lot of that out in the film because they didn't have time to build up the characters enough to be able to make it make sense. So really then it's basically kind of like what you want as a person. Do you want something that you can just kind of watch and forget? I'm going to have a good time watch this for 90 minutes and never have to think about it again? Or do you want something that you're going to have to sit down and become emotionally invested in? Have long discussions with other people that understand, aspirations of characters of what certain people have gone to go through, then obviously you're going to want to read the book. If somebody did ask me, hey, should I read the book or watch the movie? And if the person wasn't really much of a book reader, I probably would say the movie is fine. But even if they were just an amateur reader, I probably would tell them, buckle down and read the book. Because for me personally, at the end of the day, the Three Musketeers should be geared heavily towards the Three Musketeers. And it's not to say that it wasn't like that in the movie. They were there a lot of the time, but they just didn't have enough time to build them up as characters and whatnot, nearly as much as the book. And Planchet, they ruined him so bad in the movie. I couldn't believe it. And Richelieu, you did the best you could. You're great in the film, all right? But you can't carry the entire thing by yourself. So taking all that together, then, which really is better? Is the book actually better than the movie? In this case, yes, I will say the book is the superior one. Now, there have been plenty of different, adaptations of the Three Musketeers, all right? I'm sure somebody out there may say, oh, this one's better, that one's better, what have you. But once again, I just simply went online, I asked or looked around which one's the highest rated, and the 1973 movie is the best one according to it. And when compared the 1973 to the book one, the book is in fact better, so the stereotype lives on. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that video. I had a lot of fun reading it, writing it, and watching it, and all the rest of it there. If you enjoyed it yourself, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe. It'd be amazing to do that. Try and help this channel to grow. If you have a certain book adaptation you'd like me to take a look at, I already reviewed a ton of books. You can see them right here on the channel. But even if it's not listed, feel free to leave it in the comments. It doesn't even necessarily have to be a book versus movie. There's graphic novels, there's mini TV series, whatever you like. I'm open to suggestions. But in the meantime, have yourselves a good day, and I'll see you next time.